Jeskai action for him. Haven't seen a ton of this.
3 main deck copies of Ojutai's Command.
Yeah.
This deck is out there. I mean, there's some weirdness going on here.
Jeskai midrange is definitely appropriate. I mean, these are some cards that if you've been following Standard a lot recently that we have not really seen in a long time. 4 copies of Soulfire Grandmaster, 3 main deck copies of Stratus Dancer, 3 Ojutai's Command main deck, which is a card you just don't see very often. Both players going to start off with a Temple. For Ross, he's got a Temple of Triumph, and now he's got a copy of Soulfire Grandmaster. For Sohm, Temple of Malady. A great place to start in this particular format.
And I love Stratus Dancer in this kind of deck. The deck always needs more 2s. I think it's just a pretty powerful card later on in the game. And I'm always in the market for 2 drops once you're putting Ojutai's Command in the deck. You just have more stuff to get back.
Here are the wilds that play there for Sohm.
None of those synergies are overwhelming on their own, but together it's a card that makes a lot of sense in Tom's deck.
See if the boss has a Mantis right here to play in turn number 3. The mana base is a little painful right now for him. There's a Goblin Rabblemaster. No pain for that, so he'll get himself a Goblin token. And then the red zone is going to come with the Grandmaster and that Goblin token. We'll see how Sohm wants to block here.
With the uptake in Devotion and Esper Dragons, we've almost forgotten how powerful this card is.
Yeah. It's weird. It's kind of just gone away.
There's a lot. It feels like there's much fewer copies of Wild Slash and Lightning Strike floating around. The removal spells that are really well suited to fight Goblin Rabblemaster, they aren't as popular as they were a couple months ago.
Atarka Red is a deck that seems like it's just really on the decline.
Yep.
We don't see very much of it at Open Series events anymore. Some with just a 3rd land and a passing of the turn, but this, of course, can represent Abzan Charm or Hero's Downfall. Even cheap removal spells like Bob Light, though that's a card that has really taken a back seat recently, too.
Absolutely. I don't know, if I'm Tom, I'm happy just to go into combat here. This looks like a spot where Darrell may have Abzan Charm to try to pump his creature. He may have Dromoka's Command. And with Tom picking up Lightning Strike, he can just move into combat. Now, Tom has Valorous Stance in hand as well, so he's got backup in case Darrell does have something that involves the Air of the Wilds.
I like Tom's deck is, I guess, what we call it, the underplayed brew.
Yeah.
Valorous Stance. Been a little while since we've seen that one.
And it's not like there's 1 copy of these cards. We're talking about 3 copies of Valorous Stance, for example, 3 copies of Stratus Dancer.
Tom going to gain some life, and Soulfire Grandmaster is on the battlefield, of course, from the Lightning Strike. It does have lifelink. There is Valorous Stance to clear the way. And now Goblin Rabblemaster gets to come and play. It's going to be a pretty healthy attack here.
It's a combo deck right there.
Yep.
You got Lightning Strike for the small stuff. You got Valorous Stance for the big stuff. That's how you do it.
The boss pretty far ahead at this point with his board, but all it takes is really 1 siege round to turn things around.
Yeah. But it's got to be like now. There's not a lot of time here for Darrell to mess around here. He's really under a lot of pressure, already at 11. And he could use a big blocker and some life gain here in a big way.
Sohm does have land of number 4 in Caves of Koilos. Looks like he's taking a point of damage here. He's going to play a copy of Anafenza. Pass the turn back. Ross going to very quickly untap. He'll take a draw step. I think he picked up another copy of Valorous Stance.
Pretty good timing for that card.
Not bad at all. That'll take care of Anafenza. Get a trigger from the Rabblemaster. It'll be a pretty healthy attack here. An attack here for 8. We'll put Sohm down to 2.
And even Siege Rhino isn't getting him out of this.
Mm-hmm. Ross plays a copy of Temple of Epiphany, leaves that card on top, and very smartly does the boss not play his copy of Stratus Dancer. Wants to leave maybe some guessing on what a morph could be for future games.
Oh, yeah. That one in particular, too, because you're playing against a deck with, Hero's Downfall, Abzan Charm, Dromoka's Command, all cards that get played inside of combat. And if he's not expecting Stratus Dancer, that card has the potential to be a huge blowout post-board games.
Tom Ross going to win game number 1 here over Darrell Sohm. Jeskai midrange, up a game over Abzan aggro. As we move to the sideboards, we will start with the Abzan player and what 15 he has.
What I like about Darrell's deck is the numbers are very decisive here. Usually you see a smattering or removal spells, but his spells are just 4 Dromoka's Command, 4 Abzan Charm, and his sideboard, much the same deal. 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 4 copies of Ultimate Price, 3 Hidden Dragon Slayer, 3 Master of the Unseen, 1 Sorin Solemn Visitor. Definitely bring in the 4 Ultimate Prices. You saw Soulfire Grandmaster and Goblin Rabblemaster. That card's a no-brainer here. And I think that Hidden Dragon Slayer is reasonable to bring in this matchup.
On the other side here for the boss, he's got a couple copies of Asher and Cleric, 2 of those, 2 Roast, 2 Master of the Unseen, 2 Anger of the Gods, an Elspeth Sun's Champion, a Narset Transcendent, 3 Disdainful Stroke, and then 2 copies of Glare of Heresy.
I kind of want to do a bit of a control conversion here. I like bringing in the Roasts, the Elspeth, the Disdainful Stroke, and the Glare of Heresy. Anger of the Gods is pretty hit or miss in this matchup. It's good against a percentage of the deck, not good against other elements, so that probably stays at home. But the counter spells, the removal spells, and the copy of Elspeth seem very good to me. I like the Glare of Heresies as well.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2. We will very quickly talk about the Star City Games newsletter. It's been revamped, and it is your source for Magic the Gathering news. You get the latest on the SCG Open Series. You get to watch the Open Series match of the week. Last week's newsletter, the match of the week was between Alexander Hayne and Patrick Chapin.
A classic.
Really good match.
The game 3 of that match is a true classic.
You can, of course, receive exclusive deck lists and advice from some of the writers on the Star City Games website, catch up on all the event results of the Open Series, and read an exclusive cardboard crack comic. Sign up for free at starcitygames.com/newsletter. Again, really no strings attached with this. You want to sign up, feel free. You want to unsubscribe, that's not hard to do either. But some exclusive content available at starcitygames.com/newsletter.
And all of this is cultivated by your impeccable taste. So the matches, the articles, all of it. It's all you. It's got your stamp all over it. So if you trust this man's taste, sign up for the newsletter. You're going to get the best of SCG content, the best of SCG Live content as well.
We get ready for game number 2 here between Tom Ross and Darrell Sohm. Jeskai midrange versus Abzan aggro. I tell you, Jeskai is not really a deck we've seen much of. I mean, Jeskai combo, with Ascendancy, maybe even just Jeskai tokens, just everything Jeskai has really trended downward.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be. That deck was so dominant 6 months ago, and it's not like these cards aren't good. There's just shifts in the metagame, and some of the vulnerabilities of Jeskai get exposed. I think Dromoka's Command has been a huge problem for Jeskai tokens. Game 1, you picked up so many percentage points by your copies of Jeskai Ascendancy being uncontested by most decks, and now that there's some enchantment removal hanging around a lot of decks, especially decks that pack Siege Rhino, which is already a card you don't want to be playing against, tough time for Jeskai Ascendancy.
You see the resume here for the boss. Last year was really his banner year. 2014 was certainly the year of Tom Ross. He's got 3 invitational top 8s with 2 wins, but both wins were last year back-to-back, Season 2 and Season 3 on the Open Series. 4 Open Series top 8s with 1 win. Of course, a Pro Tour top 8 at Pro Tour Honolulu 2009 and 4 GP top 8s. Some things you don't know about the guy. He used to do parkour, which I would not put him on.
No. I mean, if it turned out that Tom had some, traveling circus background, I would not be stunned, I guess, but this is still not something I would have anticipated.
I don't put him on parkour. Now I can see him kind of doing some of those stunts Jackie Chan style and in the movie Brick Mansions and everything else. Mortal Kombat enthusiast, specializing in Molina. If you follow him on social media or Todd Anderson, those guys are always talking trash and looking to get a game in, and then the 5-time Louisiana State champion for Magic. Pretty impressive accomplishment as well. Now, the boss now resides in Roanoke, Virginia, producing content for Star City Games. You can see some of his versus videos on the premium side. And because he lives in Roanoke now and not Louisiana anymore, we're actually going to see him in more tournaments.
Yep, little bit of a better location in terms of grinding the open circuit.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were going to see him this weekend, but he took a trip up here with Chris Van Meter to get some battles in, work his way towards the Players' Championship yet again, where he had an impressive performance last year. He's looking to get back again this year. He'll start with a Monastery. Pass the turn back over to Sohm, who's cracking his wins up. He had to go get a plane, so he's down to 19. Parkour, huh?
Would not have guessed.
I've always wanted to be able to do parkour, as there has been visual evidence of my inability to do a cartwheel at baby steps.
Now this is something you're sensitive about, is
I'm
the
not
perception of your gymnastics skills?
I'm not sensitive about the cartwheel at all. I'm just saying it's very clear that I can't do parkour if I can't do a cartwheel.
Well, you don't know what your ceiling is if you practice,
I think I know. I almost broke my ankle doing that cartwheel.
I know.
Air of the Wilds, and a passing of the turn. See Windswept Heath here in Tom's hand. Looks like he might be going that direction. Has a Lightning Strike, a Soulfire Grandmaster tool. Start by sacrificing the fetch land. Plains or Island on the way.
Tom's removal is at such a premium in this matchup because Darrell's threats are also awesome. And I don't think he wants to use a removal spell of Air of the Wild. So he'll probably just play Soulfire Grandmaster this turn and then save Lightning Strike and Valorous Stance for the more potent threats that Darrell brings to the table.
There's the Grandmaster. We'll also pass the turn back over to Sohm. Death Miss Raptor the draw.
Interesting thing about Darrell is like he's done a lot to clean up the mana here. There are no copies of Rakshasa Death Dealer. Heir of the Wilds is replacing this.
Okay.
So he is trimming down a little bit of the power level of the deck, but adding a lot more consistency with the mana base.
Make it a little cleaner. There's Deathmiss Raptor, pass the turn back.
He's playing 4 forests and 3 plains on top of his Windswept Heath. So black mana is definitely a secondary color here. I don't know if I would build the deck this way, but I can appreciate Darrell's stance because the mana base of Abzan aggro is where it gets tripped up a good percentage of the time.
Either it doesn't come together or it deals you a lot of damage.
Or too many lands that come into play tapped.
Yeah.
Darrell's only got 8 in the list. So lands that come into play tapped. So this mana base is really cleaned up.
Well, things are working out just fine for him thus far. Ross going to play a copy of Hordling Outburst. 3 goblins on the way. And we're going to go back to Sohm. You see the life totals here, 16 to 18 in favor of Sohm. Of course, one of the things that's very difficult for Jeskai is beating a Siege Rhino. There's the black mana. Sohm going to take 1 from the Caves of Koilos. Now it is time for a Rhino. But again, Ross is packing 3 copies of Valoristan, so he also has 2 copies of Glare of Heresy and 2 copies of Roast on the board. So you imagine that Tom actually can do okay against Siege Rhino.
Although I was not thrilled by this play from Darrell here. I think if he was going to make this attack, that's the first order of business to do. You don't even play the Caves of Koilos because with the lands in play, Tom may not even block, thinking about the possibility of Siege Rhino post-combat. Now you've given Tom a lot of information to work with on his blocks.
I suppose the question is how important is the Ferocious for that Heir of the Wilds? Because now it gets to attack as a 3/3.
It does not seem, against a bunch of Hordling Outburst tokens, it seems like it's slim value. Though I suppose if Tom is blocking this way, he does get 1 more token for his trouble. So Darrell's play ended up working out pretty well there.
So the 3 goblins trade with Heir of the Wilds. 3 damage, of course, comes across from Deathmiss Raptor. And Sohm has a newly minted Siege Rhino there. So Ross has some catching up to do. Starts by playing a Flooded Strand.
I suppose if Darrell is really worried about Tom just saying, all right, I'll trade everything, my 3 tokens in front of the Raptor and my Soulfire Grandmaster in front of your Heir, then playing it pre-combat's a lot better.
Ross is going to pass the turn back. Sohm will take a draw step. Looks like another copy of Siege Rhino in hand now. Both players with a healthy amount of cards in hand, so we're going to see some action here. Pretty good place to start here for Sohm. Make an attack. See what Ross does. Looks like Ross is just going to take the damage and go down to 3. Let's make it 2. That's pretty telling.
A lot of patience here from Darrell there. Could have played the Siege Rhino and tried to finish it off, but I think he suspects if Tom is saying no blocks, no removal spell, and Hostilities could be a card that he's seeing next turn.
A card like Disdainful Stroke.
Exactly. He's very patient here. And if Tom doesn't do anything, well, Darrell can cast Abzan Charm, draw some cards, and he doesn't have to commit that Siege Rhino to the table.
Here's Lightning Strike to go after Deathmiss Raptor. Again, remember that Lightning Strike's going to have lifelink because of Soulfire Grandmaster. Hassan does have Abzan Charm in hand, so you might want to cast that to save the Deathmiss Raptor, give it +2/+2. Maybe he divvies up the counter, put 1 on the Raptor and 1 on the Siege Rhino. Looks like he's going to put 2 over there. Oh, he's going to split him. Okay, never mind. I was curious how he wanted to cast the Abzan Charm. Again, Lightning Strike will gain Ross some life, but it will not get the job done on the Deathmiss Raptor.
And I like splitting there because you just want to make your Trampler as large as possible.
Yep, I agree. Valor Stance takes care of the Siege Rhino. Ross will draw a card. It looks like Sohm may have some end of turn effects. We'll see. And he says, all right, you go ahead. Ross will take a draw. Don't have a great look at what Tom's working with right now. There is a Rabble Master over there. He's going to attack here with the Soulfire Grandmaster. He'll go up to 7. Sohm will go down to 17. But all Ross can do is pass the turn back. So Sohm will take a draw step. Again, remember, he does have a Siege Rhino in hand. And a 4/4 Deathmiss Raptor. That equals 7 if he wants to go for it. He'll start by playing a Forest. Here's an attack.
I think Darrell's got to go for it soon because this game's not getting any better for him. Tom's got a lot of cards in hand. He's gaining 2 life a turn at least off the Soulfire Grandmaster. Darrell needs to try to end this game.
He's going to try to right now. There's a copy of Siege Rhino. Ross will take a look at his hand. Does he have an answer for this card? The answer is yes, and it's Ojutai's Command. Well, well, well.
That is quite the answer.
Yes, it is. A card that we do not see a ton of.
After a weekend of watching Cryptic Command,
This is true.
we got to see a Cryptic Command that is easier to cast in this spot.
This is true. Tom would not be able to play Cryptic
Exactly.
Command right now.
A time and a place for every card.
Temple of Triumph will put the top card to the bottom. Ooh, now there's a timely removal spell there in Ultimate Price to take care of the Soulfire Grandmaster. And you do see the Power of Ochitais command. It's not quite Cryptic Command, but nothing is, of course.
Right. It's not Incendiary Command either. This card's got a lot more power to it than some of the other commands. We get hung up on the highs, but this card's a lot higher than the lows were of that cycle.
That's for sure. Here comes Death Miss Raptor. Hey, Tom's deck is truly the underplayed All-Stars. Here's another copy of Ochitais command.
Probably gain some life this time around.
Yep. Bring back the Soulfire Grandmaster. Perhaps gain 4 life, just undo the attack that's been done. Go up to 7, perhaps take the 4, go back down to 3. We'll see. Yeah, looks to be the case. Also draw a card, it's Plains. Here comes the Soulfire Grandmaster. Looks like Ross does have a follow-up to make here with a Rabble Master and Grandmaster in hand.
Yeah, this is great. Tom's deck, a whole bunch of cards you probably got really excited during spoiler season that never really showed up in decks.
Yeah. Here comes the Raptor. Will there be a chump block? Looks like there will be. Gets a game 2 off of it too, so not the worst chump block we've ever seen. Sohm reaching for some mana now. It's a morph. Again, with these Abzan decks, that implies a couple of things. Death Miss Raptor, Den Protector. All cards in Som's list. Ross is looking to draw a card like Lightning Strike here to be able to loop that with the Grandmaster. Valor Stance isn't a bad place to be either.
Well, yeah, Valor Stance is pretty great here.
Som's going to unmorph Den Protector. See what he wants to bring back.
I imagine this is Ultimate Price. That to me seems too good to give up. I guess Siege Rhino is reasonable.
Yeah, it's tough to pass up a Siege Rhino too. And those are the options here for Sohm. You can see him thumbing between those 2 cards.
I don't know. They seem close in power level to me.
He's going to go with Abzan Charm.
I guess if you're in a spot where you're not quite sure what's going on in Tom's hand, it's hard to miss by taking Abzan Charm.
Sure.
No matter what happens on Tom's side, you're going to be fine.
See how Tom wants to block here. He's going to go in front of Death Miss Raptor. He'll activate Soulfire Grandmaster and now use Valor Stance.
And I think with 2 Abzan Charms in hand, Darrell has the requisite colored mana. No, I'm sorry.
He's a little messed up because of all these basics he has in his deck.
He has 3 forests in play, so we can't. He actually cannot cast both of his copies of Abzan Charm. I just assume with 6 mana in play he'd be good to go, but he's not.
We're also again able to loop this Valor Stance, so that's still going to be in hand at this point.
And this is really bad news for Darrell because now next turn he can't go for the kill with Abzan Charm because it makes his creature at such a size that Valor Stance kills it.
Yep.
It's awkward.
To say the least.
And Darrell's life total is not free here. I mean, he's taking some chip shots here. Tom is doing an okay job of staying in this game by racing.
Gonna have a copy of Abzan Charm here. I think we might be drawing some cards with the Rabble Master effect on the stack. Dromoka's Charm and Heir of the Wilds are the draws here for Sohm.
Command pretty solid in this spot.
Command solid in most spots.
Yeah. Are there creatures in play?
Yes.
Okay, on both sides? All right, this card's going to be pretty good.
See how Sohm wants to use the spells. Again, he can't cast an Abzan Charm right now. There's a Goblin. Here's an attack. This is all going to work. So Ross is going to go up to 6. Sohm looks like he's going to go down to 7. We're going to trigger from a temple. Top card going to go to the bottom there for Ross. We're going to head back Darrell Sohm's way. Who's looking to tie things up here in this match. Deathness wrapped with a draw.
Such a bizarre game if you're on Darrell's side. By the opening, it felt like this game could not be lost. And Tom's had enough kind of well-timed tricks. He's gained some life here and there with Soulfire Grandmaster, and now suddenly the game feels a lot closer than perhaps Darrell feels like it should be.
Yeah, I think we forget just how good of a card Soulfire Grandmaster is, honestly.
It's gained a bunch of life.
Yep.
There's still a Valorous stance in Tom's hand, which is awkward to say the least.
Just really contorts the way that Darrell gets to play.
Yeah.
It's all kind of strange. And that's why you see Darrell's turn taking a little while here, because he's got to figure out a way to kind of work his way through this, because you mentioned the life has become a problem for him.
Yeah, he needs to answer the board.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of creatures in hand, which is good for him.
Well, that was kind of the big question of what was he supposed to return with the Den Protector, because he did return an Obzon Charm, and now it's looking like, well, was that the best choice?
Well, he got max punished for that decision because his draw step was another Obzon Charm.
Yeah.
If he pairs that with Siege Rhino or Ultimate Price, it's a lot better than the second copy.
A Deathmatch Raptor of the Wilds and the mana to play Dromoka's Command. Looks to be a pretty good turn. Shivan Reef, not the draw that Ross was looking for. He needs more action. Now, again, he does have Valorous Stance with the ability to loop it with Soulfire Grandmaster. No target at this point.
Yep. But he kind of needs to get Soulfire Grandmaster engaged in combat in some way this turn or next, because the Den Protector is lethal, and he can't block it currently. But if he attacks with the Soulfire Grandmaster, he's almost compelled to attack with everything, and then he's dying to the counterattack. So Tom's in a bit of a bind here.
There's a token. Here come the attacker. It's going to leave Rebel Master back on defense.
Yeah, Tom has to block, and he has to gain some life this turn.
He'll activate the ability on Soulfire Grandmaster. Now he's going to play his Valorous Stance. And this, I think, where the Dromoka's Command comes into play.
Yeah.
We will see. Looks like Sohm may not have a response here at all.
Well, I think Sohm's logic here is he's still got it on the way back.
There's nothing that says he even has to cast a spell right now. He can just simply untap and maybe pick a better spot. We'll see. If he plays it now, he can be a little more mana efficient.
With Obzon Charm and Dromoka's Command, he's got to have a way to have a kill this turn.
Yeah.
And he knows what Tom's hand is.
Yep. Here comes the command. He's going to do fight and counter, maybe, because putting a counter on turns on Valor Stance again.
Right. This needs to happen through the Den Protector, because it fights its way to 3 toughness.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm fine with this, yeah, because now Darrell can just say, okay, I'll just Obzon Charm my Den Protector.
He's got it several ways.
Yeah.
There's no risk here of anything going wrong.
He shows the Obzon Charm right now and says, yeah, I'll just put 2 counters on this and finish you off, and that's going to get the job done here for game number 2. Darrell Sohm will tie things up against Tom Ross, Obzon aggro, and Jeskai mid-range. Going to be heading to a 3rd game here.
Yeah. There's no way for Darrell to really mess that one up on the last turn, as long as he doesn't do anything with the Den Protector. And even then, he's still fine. He just needs one eligible attacker to pair with the Obzon Charm and no Goblin Rabble Master in play. There's a variety of ways for him to do that. And now we move on to game number 3.
Jeskai mid-range, Obzon aggro. One of these decks you certainly expect in Obzon aggro. Very popular deck, very, very good deck. Jeskai mid-range, again, it's Tom's build just kind of a little all over the place, but he's trying some new cards. I mean, Ochai's Command was certainly good in those games. Valor Stance has been really, really good in this matchup.
Yes.
No surprise there, I would say.
I mean, Darrell's deck is about as good as it's going to get for Valorous Stance. He's playing against a deck with a lot of 4-toughness creatures, a lot of spot removal that can be fizzled by Valorous Stance, and some creature pumps to boot. So Valorous Stance does a lot of work in this kind of game.
We'll very quickly talk about Star City Games' YouTube page, where you can find some exclusive content over there, up to and including the reruns actually of this tournament.
Exactly. You can go over to youtube.com/StarCityGames right now and become a subscriber. It is free. And there is a variety of archive content, including Versus Series articles, or videos rather, premium archives that go up about a month after the articles are put up on the premium side of Star City Games. And again, it's free on that page. Open series archives, and some content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxing. So you can head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames right now and become a subscriber for free.
Game number 3 going to be underway here in just a moment between the boss and Darrell Sohm. Again, Darrell, a local player. I actually know him given my time here in Indianapolis during my college days. He's from the Kokomo area, for those of you guys who do know Indiana. It's about an hour outside of here.
I do know Kokomo.
Do you?
Yes.
Actually, a little surprised by that.
I believe the hometown of Indiana legend Gabe Waltz.
That is correct, sir.
Yes.
Very well done. I'm impressed with your knowledge of the area.
Well, I don't know the area. I just know Magic players from 2003 pretty well. so
you know,
that's how I know Kokomo, Indiana.
So you know where they're from. Got
right.
it. Got it. Yeah, Kokomo about an hour outside of Indy, West Lafayette, which is where Purdue is at.
Yep.
It's about an hour outside too. Depends how fast you drive. So I know some players. Jesse Hefner, actually, a player we watched last round, is from the Lafayette area. And Indy is just kind of the center of it all here in Indiana.
Yeah, it's just such a great ground for Magic.
Yeah.
And Gen Con coming down the pipeline pretty soon.
Yep. Which is pretty great.
Plenty of opportunities to get your game on there. Indiana, a unfairly underrated convention city. It's a great town to do stuff in.
This is one of my favorite cities that we go to.
You like dining, you like things to do, a well-situated downtown area that's convenient, and of course, Nikki Blaine's.
Yeah, your
The
favorite.
highlight of my entire trip.
Your favorite. For me, of course, it's the Noodles and Company.
Noodles and Company.
Yep.
A fine selling point, though not necessarily exclusive to Indianapolis.
You mean the selling point. That's what you meant to say.
You and I got our steak and shake on yesterday.
We did. 24
awesome.
hours. Perhaps a little St. Elmo's this evening.
Perhaps.
Both players start off with a Tri-Land here, a Mystic Monastery for the boss. Darrell Sohm with a Sandstep Citadel. We'll also start by sacrificing a Flooded Strand. Islander Plains on the way as he goes down to 19. There is a basic Plains.
I'm really excited about Darrell's build here. I know I mentioned it a couple times now, but whenever someone looks at an aggressive deck and says, I feel like I can cut some power out of this deck to make the mana a lot better, that is exactly my kind of deck building philosophy.
I prefer consistency in aggressive decks because I want to be able to do the same thing every game. I don't want to get tripped up because of the mana.
Yeah, I feel like you need to pick up as many free wins as possible when you're playing aggressive strategies, and part of that is just having lands that come into play on tap to cast your spells on time. You pick up a lot of wins over the course of tournaments against people who kind of just fumble around and die with 4 spells in their hand. That's part of the selling point of playing these decks.
Air of the Wilds to play there for Sohm. You saw a second land was a copy Llanowar Waste. For Ross, he's got a Shivan Reef and just going to pass the turn back. So no Mantis Rider, no Goblin Rabblemaster there for the boss.
Yeah,
Mantis Rider has not shown its face yet here.
Tom's hand is very land heavy, and so he doesn't want to do anything with the Soulfire Grandmaster because that's one of his best answers to flooding out.
Yep.
Is just getting to a spot where he's looping removal spells.
Ross picks up a copy of Lightning Strike.
Now, this is a pretty interesting game at this point because both these players have a lot of incentive to just to say go. Tom wants to build up a hand and lands to do stuff with Soulfire Grandmaster. Darrell kind of wants to be doing the same thing. He's worried about tapping low. Tom has got to be worried about tapping low on his side because he's playing against a deck with Abzan Charm and possibly Hero's Downfall and Dramoka's Command. So there's going to be some interesting cat and mouse game here as both players have an incentive not to move.
Perhaps a bit of a staring contest.
Darrell also doesn't want to tap out for something like Siege Rhino, have it get hit by Disdainful Stroke, and then have Tom follow up with something big. So both of these players are going to tread pretty lightly, I feel like.
Here's an Abzan Charm. Sohm looking for 2 cards at the cost of 3 life. Of course, 2 from the Abzan Charm and 1 from the Llanowar Waste, providing colored mana. Sohm will untap and take a draw. You have to imagine a lot of weapons at his disposal now. Soaring among them.
But how does he want to play them out? You know, Tom is representing a lot of stuff over there. But Darrell also kind of needs to be the aggressor here unless he has an answer to Soulfire Grandmaster, because you don't want Dom to get to 6 mana and start looping Lightning Strikes and Valorous Dances. You want to be pressuring him. You don't want to give him all day to get that stuff set up.
Windswept Teeth, the land. Just passing the turn here from Sohm. So it appears we're going to continue our staring contest. Ross will not make a move. Picked up another land, unfortunately for him. It's a copy of Mystic Monastery. Obviously, Ross would like to continue to bluff as though his hand is very powerful, and he does have some red spells at instant speed there and Stoke the Flames, but his hand is very land heavy.
Yeah, but I don't know. If I'm Tom, I'm happy with just this game looking like this. He's getting an opportunity to draw some spells and improve his hand, which right now is light on action. And if he gets to 6 mana, good stuff starts happening for him because of Soulfire Grandmaster and the 2 mana spells he has access to.
So I'm going to sacrifice a Windswept Teeth here. I mean, it certainly feels, you know, that Tom is happy with how this game is going, and Darrell at some point is going to have to make a move to kind of break it up.
Yep. I can appreciate Darrell not wanting to just run his whole turn into something like the Sameful Stroke, but he's got to get something going here, because he's giving Tom a lot of time to set up whatever Soulfire Grandmaster shenanigans he's got going on over there. He's getting a lot of time to get to him.
So I'm going to Abzan Charm again, it appears, to draw some cards. Ross says that's fine. These life points are not free against a Jeskai deck.
No.
Stoke the Flames, that's 4 damage. Another one of those, maybe a little loop action with Lightning Strike.
Now that's a huge draw there for Darrell. He found one of his sideboarded copies of Ultimate Price, and now he has an opportunity to try to take down Soulfire Grandmaster and then put the ball into Tom's court to answer the board.
I think that's a good place to start with the price. It's a good kickoff spell.
Yeah, just see what's going on over there. You're going to find out a lot of information based on this Ultimate Price. If Tom does nothing, that's informative too.
And he does nothing. Here comes Heir of the Wilds. 17-13. Ross not going to make a move. We'll take a draw step. Elspeth, which is arguably the best card you can play against Abzan aggro.
Especially against a list that has no copies of Hero's Downfall in the 75.
Yeah, that's a huge draw there.
This
Ross.
card is just real big trouble for Darrell's build.
That may be the best draw that Tom has in his deck in this situation. With how this game played out of the steering contest,
I mean, I'm looking at Darrell's list right now, and he's not got a lot of answers to this card.
he's got a lot of Siege Rhinos in his hand.
Yep, this is going to be a lot of work for Darrell to punch through.
Big draw there for Ross.
And Tom's hand's not great besides this Elspeth.
Heir of the Wild's going to come in, go after Elspeth. See if Tom wants to do any blocking. Maybe a triple block to try to get Heir of the Wilds off the table. Maybe just a chump block with 1 soldier token. Certainly something to think about.
I'm a fan of a triple block here.
Yeah?
I think the more inroads Tom can make on the board here, the better served he is long term. And if Darrell's spending mana on tricks, that means it's less mana to be spent casting more creatures to overwhelm Elspeth.
Well, there is your triple block. You wanted it and you got it.
I suppose Darrell's answer to Elspeth is Den Protector, but that's going to be really tough against a red removal deck.
Well, there go 2 tokens. Looks like it might be time for Siege Rhino number 1. There it is. Sohm will go up to 16. Ross will go down to 14. Now we'll head back Ross's way. Shivan Reef the draw. He's got a couple of lands. He'll start by playing his Battlefield Forge. Elspeth is going to tick down to take care of the Rhino. Here's an attack for 1. This Elspeth is certainly going to be taxed because Sohm has so many copies of Siege Round in his hand.
Yeah, but it's going to require that's going to require a lot of turns and a lot of effort from Darrell to get Elspeth off the table.
Yeah.
Again, once it's here, it's here, barring something with Den Protector.
Another Rhino. Ross down to 11, Sohm up to 18. Pass the turn back with Dromoka's command still available. Ross will untap, he'll take a draw step. Didn't get a great look at it.
I believe it's Dragon Lord Ojutai.
That's a good magic card. That's a Shivan Reef.
And Tom's hand is so flush with instants that I don't even think he has to make a move on the Siege Runner right now. If Darrell makes a play here to try to pump the Siege Runner up a lot or try to knock out Tom's blockers and attack, Tom's got a hand flush with responses.
I like the play of just playing Dragon Lord Ojutai and passing the turn back.
Yeah, I like this too. I mean, he's still pretty well insulated from Darrell doing much harm. And he may walk Darrell into a trap here.
Yep. Land or a waste of land there for Sohm. 8 mana in play. That could lead to a turn of perhaps Sorin plus Siege Rhino. Den Protector being morphing up and bringing back a copy of Abzan Charm. A lot of options here at Sohm's disposal. Looks like he's a little unsure of where he wants to start. They'll begin with a Siege Rhino. Sohm up to 21. Ross down to 8. Now it's time for a Sorin. That's going to plus, which means the creatures will get +1/+0 and lifelink. So that Siege Rhino is a 5/5 trampler on this attack.
But this is great news for Tom because Darrell tapping out here gives Tom an opening to a lot of damage.
Yeah, Tom's working with great information right now.
Yeah.
It's not to say that Tom's turn was bad because it's actually a really good turn. A Siege Rhino and a Sorin is nothing to ignore.
There's just so many good options on Tom's side. I mean, he has the opportunity here, for example, he can put 3 tokens in front of the Siege Rhino and stoke it, which keeps Elspeth alive and gets the Rhino off the table and allows Tom to keep Dragon Lord Ojutai.
Yep.
And that's just the best block I thought off the top of my head. There might be something better here.
Yeah, Lightning Strike could be involved here instead of
Yeah,
Stoke.
that's it. Yeah, sure. It's all kind of the same stuff.
Sohm's going to gain 5 life. Can't forget about that.
The goal is just to put 3 toughness in front of Elspeth so Elspeth remains at 1.
Correct.
All you got to do.
Siege Rhino down. Ross will take a draw step. It's a copy of Flooded Strand. Boss is looking for spells. Perhaps Dragon Lord Ojutai can help facilitate that. You can tell he's not in love with his positioning right now. It's not terrible, obviously. That Soldier token attack might be tough.
I think that if Darrell blocks, he can just stoke.
Yeah, he's happy with this.
Yeah.
Okay. You're giving away 5 life, but maybe the 5 life just doesn't matter.
No, I think Tom's setting up for a long game here.
Okay. Ojutai is going to connect. Soulfire Grandmaster will be the weapon.
Great pairing at this stage of the game.
Yep, that's a great find. Now you get to play this. You get to gain life. I'm curious if he has enough mana to be able to, I guess with Convoke working its way into the equation to be able to rebuy.
Yeah, I had to imagine Tom's got sufficient mana here because he needs a total of 8.
Yep.
Plus the Elspeth tokens.
Yep. 8 and 2 of which has to be red.
Yeah, which he's got.
Yep.
He's got a lot of red mana floating out there. So
step 1 is the Soulfire Grandmaster. Just wants to make sure he has the right mana, which is very important. There we go. Take up the Elspeth. Now you'll see Ross activate the Grandmaster. That's done. Now it's time to stoke and rebuy, and of course you get to gain 4 life off of this as well.
yeah, this is this turn worked out pretty well for Tom. And even though Darrell had 2 Siege Rhinos, I'm sure Tom could barely control his excitement when Darrell tapped out. Because the only thing preventing Tom from blowing him out the last couple turns was Darrell having mana available. You're not quite sure what his response is going to be. But even 2 Siege Rhinos, I mean, the coast was clear for Tom to just unload that turn. And he's still got action left over in his hand. He's got 2 Stoke the Flames to pair with the Soulfire Grandmaster and a Dragon Lord Ojutai and Elspeth, which, as we mentioned, Darrell's deck cannot really remove from the table at this stage.
A Temple of Malady here for Sohm. Top card will very quickly go to the bottom. Not what he was looking for at all. I wonder how much Sohm has left in the holster here. He's cast a lot of Siege Rhinos this game. Does have a Dent Protector in hand. Looks like he might go that direction. So there's a morph. Notable that Tom just ignored the Sorin last turn too. Not too concerned with that.
I think at this point, you know, Tom's going to send some expendable tokens at Sorin. Obviously, Tom would like to get off the table at some point, but it's not posing much of an immediate threat. And Darrell getting some life is okay for Darrell, but Tom has what appears to be a pretty sizable edge in the late game at this point. Dragon Lord Ojutai and Elspeth are just better than anything Darrell can really answer with. So Tom is not going to go out of his way to prevent Darrell from getting some points of life here and there. It's not a huge priority for him to answer Sorin.
Valor stands to draw this turn.
Doesn't even really have to respect the emblem because Elspeth's hanging out.
That's true. 3 more soldiers. If you've never seen Elspeth against Abzan aggro, it is very, very hard for them to beat.
Yeah, even the decks packing a couple copies of Hero's Downfall struggle in this spot.
Yeah, it just forces you to have it. If you don't, you see situations like this. Tom gonna kill his own vampire token. Look at this.
Yeah.
Here's your Jamoka's command. This is in response to Stoke the Flames. You have to imagine it's preventing all the damage from the instant and then fighting, perhaps the Soulfire Grandmaster. Ross will play Stoke yet again. This is going to be used to cancel out the Jamoka's Charm. See, these players are building a bit of a stack here. These Stokes, of course, have lifelink. And there you go.
Yep.
We'll clear the stack up a little bit here. Some life will be gained here from Ross. A little bit of damage dealt from his land. Jamoka's Charm gets countered upon resolution. Now we might get to see some attacks here.
Magic players, that is time in round number 2. Active player finish your turn.
Ross is trying to figure out how exactly he does want to attack. He's actually catching up to Darrell in life now.
That's time.
He was pretty low in this game. Looks like everybody's coming into the red zone now.
Yeah, this forces Darrell to either trade his morph with Soulfire Grandmaster or lose the Sorin, and it appears that Darrell is electing to lose Sorin.
Sorin is gone. Dragon Lord Ojutai is going to connect, so you'll get a trigger here. Tom will anticipate. He found copies of Goblin Rabble Master, Hordling Outburst, and the land. To say which red card he'd rather have here. Clearly not interested in the land.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to go with the Rabble Master, put the rest to the bottom. Pass the turn back in a pretty commanding position at this point. Sama unmorph that Dent Protector on a Ross's end step. He'll be rebuying something from the graveyard. A lot of options here, but you know, even a card like Siege Rhino right now, not really all that great.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Siege Rhino can be a little anemic in games that become very powerful. And this game has become a very powerful game. Tom's got a lot going on his side of the table. Darrell's trying to match power by looping removal spells and such, but Siege Rhino does not do a ton in this spot.
Den Protector's coming across. No blocks to be had, of course. Sohm's follow-up will be Siege Rhino. Trying to work himself back into a damage racing game, it appears. Ross will go down to 9. Sohm will go up to 29. The follow-up here for Sohm is another Morph. Likely to be a Den Protector. Of course, could be a Death Miss Raptor. Pass that turn back. We'll go back Ross's way. He's got an active Elspeth. Valorous Stance in hand. Picked up a copy of Temple of Epiphany for his draw step. And top card is a dig through time.
Yep. Looking pretty good in this spot.
It's a hard one to pass up.
Have to imagine at this point in the game, it's on the super cheap.
Valorous Stance going to take care of the Rhino. I like Tom's positioning in this game, but Darrell's got a lot of life.
And if Tom doesn't have red removal spells for the copies of Den Protector, they are still capable of stealing this game.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue at this point. And, you know, he does have, you know, Soulfire Grandmaster out there to gain a little bit of life, and Dragon Lotus can probably find an answer to what's happening, but it is a little scary.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment. The game is not as locked up as it kind of looks like it is on the surface, because Tom may struggle to answer these Den Protectors, and his life total isn't that high.
A copy of Roast is something I would have interest in. As weird as it sounds, I kind of just want 5 life. Tom will take a look.
And it's so potent to pair with Soulfire Grandmaster next turn.
I truthfully kind of like just casting it right now, just because I just kind of want a 5 life buffer.
Yep.
You know, I feel more comfortable with myself at 16 instead of 11. Not to say that Tom was going to lose the game, but it kind of felt like it might be slipping, or it could be stolen from him.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate just saying, you know what, I'm not going to risk anything here. I don't need to generate more card advantage. Just give myself a bit of a cushion here.
And I'd rather get my loop on.
Yeah.
With the Grandmaster, but
if Tom's Dragon Lord Ojutai stays uncontested and he already has Valorous Stance in hand, he's not going to be at a loss for things to do with all of his meta and Soulfire Grandmaster.
Yeah.
So he can concede a little bit of inevitability there to give himself some immediate tempo, which is what he needs right now, because he's kind of got the card advantage inevitability aspect of the game locked up.
looks like it might be time for Abzan Charm. Yep, that's going to take care of the Dragon Lord Ojutai that's causing Sohm so many problems. The follow-up here is Dramoka's command. Looks like that's going to get a counter and take care of the Soulfire Grandmaster. Ross will gain a little bit of life from the fight there. And now Den Protector is going to take care of Elspeth. So that's a good turn for Sohm.
Yep.
The follow-up is a Death Miss Raptor. Back Ross's way we're going to go. Ross take a draw step. Picked up a copy of Mantis Rider finally. I was wondering if we'd ever seen one of those. Also has Rebel Master and a Valor Stance in hand.
And I think that this is just going to be a little too much for Darrell to overcome at this spot.
I think so.
Especially with Tom's life total being as high as it is. He doesn't even need to make a move to answer the Den Protector, which he could. He can just sit on Valorous Stance here in case Darrell has some, off-color sweeper in his deck or some bit of weirdness here,
Rebel Master, of course, brings the Goblin along with it. Looks like Death Miss Raptor is going to eat that. Sohm down to 1. Sohm will take a draw step. It's a copy of Sandstep Citadel. That's not what the doctor ordered, and that's going to do it here. Tom Ross going to win this match here over Darrell Sohm. 2-1. Jeskai midrange will take care of Abzan aggro. And for the boss, after his 1 bye, gets a W, gets his day started off right.
1 Elspeth in the 75, and that was game number 3 right there. It was looking like a pretty slow-paced game where Darrell and Tom were trying to set up their hands and play some sort of long card advantage game. And it actually looked there for a moment that Darrell was going to have the edge when he drew ultimate price and was able to kill the Soulfire Grandmaster. Tom's hand was just a bunch of red removal spells, and Darrell had a lot of Siege Rhinos to work with. I thought in that spot, Darrell was a pretty huge favorite, but Tom drew that one copy of Elspeth, and you go down Darrell 75 there, not a lot of answers to that card. I mean, he's got to kill it with Den Protector attacking, or he's got to do a ton of work, and Elspeth remained in play there for, what, 5 or 6. I mean, it was a long time that Elspeth was in play, and that advantage that Tom generated was just insurmountable from Darrell's side.
It was too long.
Way too long.
Yeah.
Way too long.
When Elspeth